I think the goal of life is to spread joy and feel happiness as much as humanly possible. And I genuinely believe that collecting things or buying things because you love them and because you feel joy wearing them, it will give you so much more happiness than collecting things because somebody told you that they're going to be worth a lot.
Today, I could not be more excited. Our guest is a multi-platinum producer, a Grammy Award-winning artist, a multi-billion stream song creator, collector of many fine things, arts, homes, watches, all things luxury. I'm very excited to welcome Anton. You know him as Zedd. Welcome to 24 Hours.
Thank you for having me and thank you for this really nice intro.
I'm so hyped! I feel like Clarity is a good place to begin, a good benchmark. I think it's a turning point in your career. Tell us a little bit about the record and also kind of your approach to collecting things at that point in your life.
Clarity was 2011, and I was initially flown to LA to work on Lady Gaga's album. Now, 2011, Lady Gaga is the biggest artist on planet Earth. She had many other things to do than work on the record, so I had time. I was like, well, maybe I'll make my own album. And what started as a time-wasting project turned into like a labor of love, and I really put everything behind it. It turned into Clarity.
Yeah, where are you in your journey at this point?
I would say I've always had an appreciation for the beauty of a watch. 2011, I have probably $30 in my bank account. Watches are a scam.
Okay.
Why would I spend more than $100 on a watch with a battery that would, run for years if I have to wind them?
Fair enough.
So that's my attitude 2011. I would never buy a watch, not that I could, but zero urge to collect watches. Fast forward just a little bit later, the pandemic hits. I spend a lot of time on Instagram and I see John Mayer wearing a Rainbow Daytona on stage. And I was like, I feel like I could see myself wearing that. That was my thought.
So you see the Rainbow Daytona on John's wrist, and that gives you kind of the aha moment. So what becomes your first watch that you collect, your first significant, serious mechanical timepiece? I think we have it here with us today.
We do.
Yeah.
It is this beauty right here. This is obviously not a factory version of Milgauss, but it resembles the rainbow that I saw on John's Daytona. And my thinking here was, well, I can kind of always wear that. And then I had a photo shoot for a day show that I do in Vegas, and the theme was light colors, summery. And I was wearing this, and the people at the photo shoot were like, maybe let's do it without the watch, it's a little heavy. It's like, oh, that kind of sucks. That's the only one I have. I guess no watch. So I go home and I'm like, well, maybe I should get one more. Then the waterfall started really going.
That's right. One of the things that I love about your collecting is that you don't so much listen to trends and how people are responding in the world of the watch community. And I know that early in your relationship with AP, you discovered the Code 1159, which when it was released in 2019 was a very controversial, very polarizing watch. So tell us a little bit about your beginning of your experience with AP.
So this is the first watch that I got working with AP, and I found this so fascinating. Once I saw that angle, none of my watches have that. This checks a unique box. Like you mentioned, I really don't listen to trends at all. I don't even know that I know what's trendy, what's worth a lot. I think my collecting watches has never had anything to do with being valuable at some point. I just have a deep love for the artistic side, for the craftsmanship, and the memories I collect along the way.
I think it's a super meaningful and elevated way to collect, and really kind of guides us into our next part of the conversation, which is the things that you find interesting in the watches that you collect, and conversely, things that you find uninteresting in watches. Because I think that that's a subject that we don't get to talk enough about.
It's almost easier for me to list things I don't like
Okay.
about watches. And again, this goes back to my point, this is a highly personal thing. Slightly smaller, skinnier, more elegant, slightly more rounded. Shapes look better on me. I think back in the day that was a little bit more normal for men to wear smaller watches, and it kind of became a one-way street towards larger, larger, larger. This isn't a trend for me, and any trend turns back around. And I feel like there's a little bit of a, let's go back to a little bit more elegant designs.
100%
and I'm all about it.
So the shift is happening, and it's super important. I think the turning point is roughly 1993. AP introduces the offshore at 42 millimeters, and that is a huge shift in watch design. A few years later, Patek would introduce larger watches, Rolex would, Richard Mille in 2001 would introduce the 001, a larger case. So all of these things you'll see start to play into the design of larger watches, and then the cyclical nature, as you said, is coming back.
I also want to break the barrier that guys can't wear women watches and the other way around. If they look good on you, if they make you feel great, why on earth would you not wear it?
I couldn't agree with you more. I think the gender lines for watches, like in fashion and like in culture, are completely blurring in the most exciting way. I want to shift into something. You certainly have the jewelry on for it now, but I want to talk a little bit about bling and your relationship with factory set diamonds. You have one of my most favorite factory set watches of all time in the yellow gold jumbo with the yellow stones. Tell me a little bit about this timepiece from your perspective and your feelings on it, and kind of your feelings on gem setting in general, and in jewelry and in watches.
As with many other things, my taste developed over time. I at first didn't really think there is a big difference between a factory gem set and an aftermarket one, because I had never seen them, next to each other. I was never able to see the perfection of every piece being
the touch,
perfect.
The touch.
Yeah, the touch as well. And just the clarity, of color, you can see the difference between a factory set and a non-factory set one. Now, I've never had a full factory set bracelet like this. And I actually didn't know how that was gonna translate, because the photos online oftentimes appear extremely blingy. Now, when I got this in person, it is one of my favorite watches I own. It is actually relatively classy.
It's much more demure than you would think.
If you read online how many stones are on here, you'd be like, oh, this is gonna be a bling one. It really isn't, but it does give you something special. For example, on stage, I have a lot of lights hitting me, and the reflection is just incredible. It's beautiful. It's still very, very thin. It's very elegant. It's like the perfect mixture between an elegant watch, but still a very out there, very loud watch at the same time, as much as those two worlds could be in one. It's beautiful. I love this.
I think one of the things that makes factory setting so special is there is ideation from the beginning on how the stones will add to the whole of the piece.
Right.
And so it's not, let's take a watch and throw diamonds on it, which is what a bust down and aftermarket watch is.
Yep.
But there is design language to how will the stones help tell the story, and how will the stones help elevate the story.
Yeah.
So there's ideation there. Now, moving over to one of my favorite watches that you own and that you wear, the 37 millimeter factory set music edition with the stones on it.
This is like as close to a Zedd watch as it could get.
That's right.
What makes it special is obviously it's like an equalizer.
That's right.
And the stones aren't even that big, but they're so vibrant.
I think it's the right side of noisy, no pun intended.
It's a dream watch, and it speaks to me on a deeper level than just a pretty watch.
Talk to me a little bit about your relationship with design and also your relationship with art.
I absolutely love art, design, fashion. I sort of put them all in one bucket in a sense. I think there's just anything that can feel aesthetically pleasing for whatever reason, for the shape, for the texture, is fascinating to me. I became a serial mover because I think once I move into a place, it has a certain overarching feeling. Now, in this home here, I've been writing my album, so to me, once the album is done, it's time to move on to the next feeling that I want to inspire me to create something new. But I want every art piece, when you walk through the whole house, to tell the same story. The house itself has a story, which is no different than a watch.
my personal connection to an art piece can be more important than the actual art itself.
That echoes in your relationship with how you collect watches.
Absolutely.
I mean, looking at the table here, you see such a diverse palette, from the more traditional Pateks to the Omega, to some of the open work Pateks, to the Rolexes, to more dressy Rolexes, gem set Rolexes, the Codes, the Offshores, the Royal Oaks. Looking at it, it feels like someone who cares more about the way things connect with them, all the way to the Mickey Mouse Rolex.
Love it.
Why did you buy that watch?
I genuinely just wanted to have a watch for Disneyland.
It feels like a collection that was built with passion, and I think the art and design also echoes that.
Yeah, I really think ultimately the goal of life is to spread joy and feel happiness as much as humanly possible. And I genuinely believe that collecting things or buying things because you love them and because you feel joy wearing them or hanging them on your wall or whatever that may be, it will give you so much more happiness than collecting things because somebody told you that they're going to be worth a lot in this day, and then it goes the other way and you suddenly feel sadness with something. I could never feel sadness with my watch collection because I never bought them for the price anyway. They're forever going to be the same positive emotion for me that I had the first day I bought them, and nothing could turn that around.
I want to talk about your new album. I want to hear the story of it from you. Tell us about it.
You know, after we've just talked about the reason why I collect watches and how I collect watches, and I didn't realize this before we talked about this, but I have the exact same approach with this particular album.
That's awesome.
The only thing I wanted to do is to follow my heart on what I want each song to be and how I want them to be, and completely forget about, well, would this commercially be successful? Would this make any sense for the label? They haven't even heard the album until it was almost done, and have my back, which is also not a given. The collaborations I've done were the ones that were the most meaningful to me. Artists that have inspired me to be where I am today, and parts of my musical education. So a lot of the things that I made on this album they just speak to me on a personal level. Like I remade a classical piece by Bach, which was amongst the first pieces I've ever learned to play, which is maybe my favorite musical composition of all time. I finally got to work with John Mayer, who's a friend of ours, who somebody actually pointed this out and screenshotted a tweet of me saying, we gotta finally get in the studio and work together. Fast forward nearly 10 years later, I made a song for my album, and it was the one song that didn't make the cut because I just didn't know how to finish it. It was stuck. I felt like I couldn't get it there. That was the one song John heard and immediately said, I know exactly what this song needs. Then essentially we spent 4 or so days in the studio working on the song, and it's one of my favorite songs on the album now. After making Clarity, my first album, and True Colors, truthfully for 9 years, I thought I would never be able to beat them. And it took me nearly 4 years of working on this album to get it to a point where I'm so excited to share it that I actually think I made the best album of my life.
I don't wanna break the silence, I don't wanna play pretend, I don't wanna be the same mistake you make again. Yes, I'm gonna keep the promise, but if you ever ask me, it's an automatic, yes, 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 I wanna.
So I want to say that this has been one of the coolest 24 hours we've ever done. I'm so excited for people who don't know this side of you to get to see the side of you. You're just one of the best ever to do it. I think what aficionados in anything, in music, and like the keyboards, and the sneakers and jewelry and watches and art, the thing that they appreciate most is authenticity.
I don't want to collect watches and put them in a box and never touch them. This was a moment in my collection where when a watch the price tag was quite expensive, it was like, can I wear this on stage? I asked my friend who was collecting watches, and he's like, if this gives you happiness, then yeah, you should wear it on stage. And the answer was clear. I love wearing a watch. It makes me happy, and when you look at them, they have scratches all the time. But the scratch might be connected to a show in front of 30,000 people, and that's kind of an amazing scratch. I'll happily take it.
It's a very cool
scratch.